You are listening to Balloon Killers. I'm your host, Chrissy Riley, and each episode I'll be talking to someone from the world of cowboy mounted shooting, which is one of the most exciting and fastest growing equestrian sports. Hold on to your hats because it's going to get Western. Hey everyone, I hope everyone's doing well. I, through the wonders of modern technology, set this podcast to go live while I'm on my hollybobs in Mongolia, so I hope it worked. And it's kind of funny to think what I might be doing as some of you listen to this. Colorado regulators, I hope the Estes Park shoot went well. I was kind of bummed to miss that one for a second year in a row, but of course can't do everything. My guest for this episode was a critical person in my journey into the sport. He and Dee Chapman, who I interviewed for the very first episode of this podcast, facilitated the first mounted shooting clinic that I went to, and it was such a positive experience that I left with guns a-blazing, pardon the pun. Matt Jobe owns and operates the C-Bar J Ranch in Windsor, Missouri with his wife Angie. He's a Missouri native and a veteran of the U.S. Air Force. He served his country with 5 overseas tours and earned numerous awards and medals. Thank you very much for your service, sir. At their facility, the Jobes teach riding lessons and clinics. Matt also co-owns Flint Hills Ranching Adventures in Kansas. His specialty is working with horses and teaching people how to communicate with them. Matt has competed successfully in mounted shooting, in ranch roping, and extreme cowboy racing. And he's earned several world, national, regional, and state titles over the last few years, including the 2022 Futurity 2D World Champion, the 2021 PAFRA Overall World Champion, and the 2021 USMS 2D World Champion. I spoke to Matt right as the craziest storm hit, so I ended up on my phone again, big sighs to the woes of rural Wi-Fi, continuing to raid on my podcast parade, but we made it work because what else are you going to do? Hi Matt, how you doing? It's been a while. I think the last time I saw you was from afar at the shoot in Estes Park.
Yes, ma'am. Doing great. And yes, it's been a while.
What have been some of your successes and challenges this year? How's the year been going for you?
The year's been going really well. A horse that was battling from EPM for the last 3 years, she's doing really well. And so I'm getting to ride her again. And so that's been a lot of fun. I thought I would maybe never ride her, and I'm actually getting to compete on her. So pretty happy about that.
Very cool. And I know that you are a veteran of the mounted shooting sport. So tell us about how you got into mounted shooting.
Yes. So back in, I believe it was 2013, we were at the Missouri State Fair, which actually is going on right now. So this time, 11 years ago-ish, we were watching cowboy mounted shooting. Never heard of it, never saw it. And we were sitting there and we watched these awesome competitors run. And I said, hey, I have a horse at home that I have about 40 rides on, and I'm going to teach her the sport of mounted shooting. And I'm going to get into this. And I did. And we just competed at that shoot on Thursday and Friday. So that's kind of how I got into it. And it's super fun to think about it. And it was this time of year.
What is it that you love about the sport?
Well, that has probably changed a little bit over the years, but the last couple of years I've really focused on some new beginner shooters, and that's where I really enjoy. And it's fun whenever you put down a smoke and run, and it's fun whenever you get a nice check or a nice buckle, and so I do love that, and that is a super fun part of the sport. But like this weekend, for instance, I probably had, 6 or 7 of my students shooting, and 3 of them walked away with nice checks. And this was their first year shooting. We're, most of the way through the shoot season, and they're really doing a great job, and they're really understanding it, and their horses are really doing good. And so I find that very enjoyable.
And of course, that's how I met you, because I met you at a new shooters clinic. Oh, what? I don't know, maybe 2, 3 years ago now.
Yes, ma'am. Yep, two or three. I don't remember, but yes.
And I was hooked immediately, as most of us are, but completely hooked and love it. What's one piece of advice that you'd give to any mounted shooter?
Yeah. So advice I would give is get your horse more trained, get your horse more broke. And so a lot of times on my young colts and stuff, I've been very successful in mounted shooting because they were more trained. They were farther along. They've been exposed to more life than a lot of the other colts there. And so I spend like right now, I've starting my colt for 2 years from now, and we use him on cattle. He'll be starting to rope this fall, and we just expose him to everything. We ride him to Sonic and get an ice cream and ride him back. And so we work on body control, moving body parts, moving hips, shoulders, getting them soft in the bridle, and just a good all around using horse before we start shooting on them. And it makes shooting so much easier.
That's one thing I definitely remember about my first clinic with you, was that we spent the morning doing groundwork, and then we played tag and we played horse soccer with the big balls. And I know that by after lunchtime, when we started shooting, the horses were much more prepared and sort of relaxed and ready to hear the loud sounds.
Absolutely. Yep. And I like to set them up for success. Some horses are just naturally, they'll take to it, but a lot of them, it's how we handle them and how we present it. And I want the first time they shoot to be very good for them. It's a lot of fun for us. It's a lot of fun for new participants, but mostly I want the horse to have fun and it be a good deal for the horse.
Absolutely. Now, I ask a lot of people this question because I know that as new shooters are getting into the sport, there's so many guns out there and they don't know which ones to choose or why they're choosing them. They just kind of go for whatever's on Facebook Marketplace. But what guns do you shoot and why?
Okay, great question. And I have an example from this very weekend. And so I like Ruger Montadas, stainless steel. I do not necessarily think they're the lightest. I don't necessarily think they're the fastest, but I do think they are the most dependable. And if I'm going into a gunfight or I'm going in to fight balloons, I want the most dependable gun because, I've paid my entry fee, I put my time and work into it. I don't want to go in there and my gun failed. And my Rugers have never failed me yet. And you can treat them pretty rough and they still perform. And so I tell all my students, buy Ruger Montadas. And I had a lady student this weekend. She bought some cheaper guns. She's tried some different guns, and she's wasted a lot of entry fees this summer. And she finally borrowed some Montadas on Sunday, and she won her very first check in mounted shooting. So I'm a Ruger guy, and that's why.
That's exactly what happened to me as well. So I bought a pair of guns after I took the clinic. Didn't really know what I was buying, but bought a pair of guns. And I will say they served me well. Like they got me through my first few shoots. But as soon as I transferred to the Rugers, I remember Dee describing them as the tractors of guns. I started being much more consistent. So I can definitely see that too.
Yes, ma'am.
What's your favorite pattern and why?
That varies. There's a lot of fun patterns. And this weekend, because we've been to two different shoots in the last 4 days, and we had the Missouri State Fair, and then we had a jackpot shoot Saturday and Sunday right after the Missouri State Fair. And at both shoots, we shot the candy cane. And at both shoots, I won pretty big checks on the candy cane pattern. So this week, I'm going to answer the candy cane. I like it because it's fast and you have different choices where to cut. Like on a Thursday night, I cut between balloon 3 and 4. The way it was set up on Saturday, I actually cut between balloon 4 and 5. And both of them paid really well. So that always makes it more fun.
Nice. That's one I actually know as well. I'm becoming more familiar with all of the patterns now, but that's one that I've done in practice and I really liked it because it was fast.
Yes. Yep. It is fast. And yeah, they all have numbers, but most of us that have shot a little while, we have slang terms for them. And so then a newer shooter, they're like, what? Candy cane? What's that?
Now, you've been shooting for a long time, so I can't imagine how many wins you've had. But which win are you most proud of and why?
Yes, there's several that I am proud of, and it's fun. We're actually in the middle of repainting our interior of our house. We had to take all the buckles off the wall and such, but it's fun to see those buckles and remember, who you were hanging out with and where you were, whether it was Estes Park or it was Amarillo or Murfreesboro or wherever. And so that makes it a lot of fun. But a few years ago, a group of people got in cowboy mounted shooting into the Professional Armed Forces Rodeo Association. And I was able one year to win the world title at the PAFR Rodeo. And that one means a lot to me just because I was with all my military brothers and sisters.
What a cool win. Each year, I get excited when you post about your cowboy camp competition. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
You bet. And so I was working on that today, and that's actually one of the coolest events, I think. And it's coming up here September 20th through 22nd. But what we do there is I have a partner out in the Flint Hills of Kansas, and we graze cattle. They come in the spring. We take folks out on cattle drives and such, and we do a spring branding. And then in the fall, repeat, we bring all the cattle back in off the pastures and truck them wherever they go. And we also have fall branding with another herd of cattle. But in September, we do our cowboy camp, our top hand competition. And so we're taking 12 cowboys and cowgirls this year, and we're going to put them through their paces. We have a list of normal ranch things that we do all the time out here. And so they're going to have to gather cattle. They're going to have to sort cattle. We have an obstacle course, and not a like what you see a lot of places obstacle course. This is all ranchy. So they'll be running through creeks and hills and hollers. Of course, I'm involved, so we will be shooting guns, and they'll jump feed bunks, stuff like that. So that's a big time and exciting. And then we always rope stuff, and there's always cattle need doctoring and such. So the roping gets pretty exciting and good time. And then usually we have separate in teams, and they have to make our breakfast meal one time each time we're there. So that's good time. And on Saturday night, we have usually some kind of live music, different things. And I don't want to give this away to all our contestants, but they may not be listening to Mounted Shooting anyway. But we're going to have a talent show. And they don't know this, but whenever they arrive, we're going to tell them, hey, Saturday night, you have to show us your 2-minute talent. And so they're going to be judged on their 2-minute talent, whether they write a poem or sing a song or whatever they do. And then Sunday morning, we have David Ferris. He'll be with us. He's a cowboy mounted shooter. He does church at several different shooting events. He's going to come have church with us. And so pretty excited about that. And then at the end of all this, our top hand gets awarded a belt buckle and a shopping spree at Kleinsmith's Western Store. And they get $1,000 in cash. And they get a bunch of other prizes from our other great sponsors like Brummett. Brummett's a cowboy mounted shooter, and he's sponsoring this event as well. So appreciate them. And this is all filmed by Better Horses TV. And it's going to be on the Cowboy Channel and on RFD TV. So that'll probably be a couple months down the road after the event. But really excited about it. And this year is shaping up to be the best one yet. This is our 4th year of doing it.
Every year I see it, and I would love to do it. So for anyone out there who might be interested, who do you think would be a good candidate to compete in this?
Anybody that has a little bit of ranchy, you don't have to be perfect at any of it because you're going to have the time of your life. And so don't just focus on, can I win this or not win this? And by the way, we only take 12 contestants. So it's not like you're competing against 200 people. You're competing against 11 other people. But I'd say pretty much anyone that likes to ride on the ranch and do ranch stuff, they would be a good candidate. And whether win or lose, they're going to have a wonderful time, and they're going to leave with a swag bag full of stuff and a whole lot of memories.
It does sound like a lot of fun. I've been asking this question of a lot of people as well, but what's one thing that you have in your trailer? What's one thing you go on the road with that you couldn't live without?
Well, I try to never use it, but I have a block to drive the trailer axle up on, and a battery operated impact wrench. And it's, occasionally you will have a change of tire on the highway, and those two things make it super easy, super fast. And I was coming back actually from your country one time from Pueblo. And it's the middle of the night. I was bored. I was traveling alone. And I thought, I wonder how fast I could do this. And so I set the timer on my phone in the truck, went back, changed tire, got back in the truck. And it was like 2 minutes and 47 seconds. And that's a silly little game, but it helped me stay awake too. And so I would definitely have a block to drive your trailer axle up on. And I would definitely have an impact wrench.
Those are some things that a lot of people have suggested. So those are things I now have in my trailer. So what's next for you? What are your plans and ambitions for the future?
Well, I always enjoy futurity horses. I've done the futurity in different associations 3 times now. And this spring, I bought a Travis quarter horse, one of their colts that's paid into their futurity, and then also be eligible for the CMSA futurity. And so that's probably a goal that's coming up in 2 years. I want to have him ready. And to me, on the colts, I'm not all about they have to be the fastest or I have to win it. But I sure want to have a good looking horse out there that rides handy, that anybody else would be proud to own. And so that's what I'm working towards right now, my futurity.
I also have a youngster that I'm bringing on, and I'm thinking about it in the same way. I want my horse to be handy rather than just fast, because right now fast isn't actually all that helpful for me anyway.
Usually I've had a few futurity horses that I've actually sold before I even got to take them to the futurity. And then usually they sell after the futurity if I still do have them. My futurity colt from a couple years ago, I needed a horse, and I'm really a mare guy, but he's a gelding, but he's been so handy that I've just kept him around, and he's a solid shooter. He's not an upper level shooter, but he's a good solid shooter, and he's a good working citizen on the ranch. And so he's fun because he's just always business oriented, and he always gets the job done. And that's the kind of colts I like to bring on.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Matt. It has been a pleasure to speak with you. It has been a while, and I hope it's not so long until I see you again next time.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks for having me. And yes, I look forward to visiting with you soon.
Thanks so much, Matt, for your time and also your patience with my internet and storm issues. It really was so good to reconnect. Anyone who's interested in the cowboy camp should find Matt and Flint Hills Ranching Adventures on Facebook. And I can speak from personal experience when I say that he is a real hand when it comes to helping horses with people problems. If there are balloon killers you would like to hear interviewed, please email me on balloonkillers@gmail.com. That's balloonkillers, all one word, @gmail.com.